Hey yo, what it did, y'all? Let's get right into it. I assume you're here because you are struggling, right? Let's just be real for a second. Gearing in this season has been hard. Making currency in this season has been hard, and I'm in this two-part video because I don't want to make two separate videos for a topic that I think is so intricately connected together. I'm going to explain to you some stuff about that I've learned about gearing and making money this season to make your life easier, right? So let's get into that. One, the most important lesson that I learned this season is that money is made to gear your character, and then gearing your character is made to farm. Which this sounds real basic. This sounds like, well, duh, what else would I do with the currency? You have no idea how many people get into bad habits of just stocking up currency in games and never investing in it, right? Or getting skittish when it's finally time to invest all that resources that they've been farming. But it's like, oh, but what if I miss? Whatever. Sometimes you miss. It is what it is. Just, work your way up your fucking priority list because we can't just hold on to the money infinitely until nothing gets done. And then you sit there staring like, man, my character's so weak. Well, yeah, duh. You've been sitting with Mr. Krabs' money bed, just sitting there instead of actually doing anything with it, instead of actually investing your money. So that's number one, right? And then before we get into the rest of these, if you find this video particularly helpful, like, comment, subscribe would be meaningful, helps people get the video out there because I just really want people to actually know about how to make this season good because I have been really enjoying this season, and I'm making this video just to like help the people who have been struggling, right? Help you guys if you've been struggling or just you're curious, other things you can do. All right, let me very quickly speed you guys through the gearing stuff, so then we can talk about the money stuff. Because, like I said, they're both intertwined, so I didn't want to make two separate videos about the two things, right? Or two separate videos about the topics. One, gear wise, number one thing to note is that gear between item levels 82 and 85 will roll with T2 modifiers, but will cost flame sand to craft on instead of FE. If you notice here, the cost for crafting on my necklace right now is just 5 flame sand and 1 ember. That is so much cheaper than what it cost me to craft on, say, my weapon. When I craft on my weapon, it's 1 FE and 10 embers. So we are paying way, way, way more per tap on eye level 86 than you are on 82 to 85. And while there is a very notable difference between T2 and T1 modifiers as a result of this, it does mean that you can get your entire character decked out in T2 gear in full T2 gear extremely cheaply, just because either you will farm out the, like, look at all this flame sand. Look at all this flame sand that I just racked up because I can't use it. Everybody who's made it to T8s and has like finished gearing the T2 sub of their character has flame sand that looks like this. And then they either just stash it or they finally go, fine, I'll list it for 1 FE. And I really do mean for 1 FE, by the way. Like, if I price check, 1 FE per thousand. If you just like, I don't know, if we go and we look at the trade search for this, 1 FE per thousand, 1 FE per thousand, 1 FE per thousand. This guy's weird, right? 1 FE per thousand. So you can get a ton of sand very, very quickly with just like your first FE drop, for example. And then you get to work on crafting. The embers are still a little bit more expensive because are little, like, very, barely expensive, especially relative to the cost of an 82 to 85 item. And so it's very important that if you're struggling, are all of your damage stats upgraded? Right? Don't tell me, oh, I just feel like I'm doing no damage in 7-1s and 7-0s and 7-2s while trying to make money to get ready for 8-0s. And then you look at, and then your character shows up and it's got like T4 int still. And it's got like, I don't know, how it's like, it's got T4 int, it's got like T5 damage. Your weapon isn't fully T2'd out. I'm going to laugh at you. And you're going to get laughed at by the game too. Invest in your character, right? That's one. Two, when you are two, is that you can actually be full T2'd out and be in 8-0s. You just can. You just get some strong uniques alongside that. Like, for example, when I didn't have these weapons made to a decent enough level, like, I didn't have to have them fully made to replace my oversights. But while I think it was like at 2 or 3 T2s, T1s, especially this cast speed on each of them, that's when I was able to switch weapons. And I was using oversight until then because this item is just really, really strong. Like, you could see, compared to fully crafted weapons, is only 30% behind, which is insane to think about, right? Then there's little stuff like that. Getting damage mods. Number three, my big tip: do not fixate on capping your resistances. Like, you see, I have my capped resistances, but that's because I've made some choices as a result of having damage and finishing my investment elsewhere. For example, like I'm getting resistance on my candles because I only have one stat that matters, and resistance is not a high priority stat on these pieces apparently. So I was able to fish up some resistance for myself on my candles, or you can get them on the tree, or maybe you roll into like on a slate, for example, whatever, right? The role of resistances are not as critical in this game as they are in other games because the cap is so low that missing percentages is not that bad, especially if you just think about like minus max or whatever on a map modifier. Like it'll be fine. Your goal is to kill things where they can touch you most of the times anyways, and as a result you can start to fixate on more things like getting this cat speed on my neck, or this crit crit glove, or this crit crit ring, or the crit that I got while I was at the movie speed on my boots, right? Maybe you're not a crit build, maybe you're dot build, right? But if you're a dot build, you're gonna want to get all the affliction and reaping stuff, right? And so that's what I'm getting at more so is that like don't be afraid to deprioritize resistances to actually get your offensive stats and just get the resistances elsewhere. Like I only started filling in my resistances as I took off the legendaries I was wearing. Once the marksman bracers came off, once the grace steps came off, once the oversights coming off didn't really mean anything, right? As the compensatory life came off, right? As I started to pull off these pieces, that's when I got to go into get my resistances, and that's just with better gear, better investment. Okay, last thing about gearing, right? Well, two things actually. Last major thing I've got a bonus about gearing before we move on to making money. Sweet dream. The dream talking interpretation is extremely powerful. As you've noticed here, I have my three dreamcrafted items are being my weapon, and my boots. They all have the same prefix, funnily enough, the same bonus, funnily enough, and I got lucky to roll them until they hit negatives. It don't matter to me. But the these are really cheap. The weapon ones are not even one FE per roll on this. The armor ones are like 5 roll attempts to one FE. Trinkets, so rings, amulet, belt are still about like 2.5 per each, but they're all really strong. There's a lot of really strong options. There's like paralysis on gloves, which is a 15% a 50% damage increase. But I have paralysis on my goal on my magus through grudge. So for single targets only though, it doesn't work on AOE. So if you want it for mapping, you might want paralysis on your gloves. You might want to get your curse on hit on a ring or a neck. Base alien damage if you're looking to do funny things with dirty tricks as a neck mod. There's +1 blessing on these gear slots, right? There's a lot of really strong offensive mods you can get access to very, very, very easily. Should you be okay with the downside that comes with it, or in some cases, straight up, like minus minion crit rating. Oh no, what minions, right? Very strong. Okay, and then I have a bonus gearing tip, and this is just to help you save some currency, some FE, some time. When you are searching bases, so let's just say, for example, when I was getting my glove base that I crafted on very late last night, as I was checking some stuff out, I was like, I want int gloves. The all magic grip is the one that will show up in the item level 82 to 85 range. Now, the last thing I do is I always search for energy on my items. And it's because a lot of the time you'll find a really cheap base with high energy. And I'm pretty sure you guys have noticed the price on energy cores this season is insane, right? Like energy core. Energy cores are okay, they're coming down finally, but this is still like really high. This is like 12 to 1 roughly speaking. Like if I go hit the search, yeah, 12 to 100, right? 12 to 100. These are like, this is a lot, right? This is like 8.5 FE or cores per FE. That is a lot, right? Because it takes 20 cores to tap. So you're just jettisoning FE, 2 FE, 3 FE at a time trying to tap your gear. So searching for energy is very good. Alrighty. Now, let's talk about how to actually make money. Because especially because I see motherfuckers complaining all the time about there's no way to make FE, and okay, like yeah, they've had to bump a couple things about FE, but there are strategies I was using that were very sufficient even before 8.0s, before they started making these patches, because it was really never that bad. You just had to like I don't know, gear your character. So one, this mechanic here is broken. Starting in T7s, this mechanic is extremely strong. They actually just bumped the drop rate of FE from the level 7 nodes. This mechanic is insane, even if you don't have the pets yet, but you should at least get the one pet from the event shop. But you should definitely try to get more. If you do want this mechanic to be absolutely insane, should consider pulling on the Rainbow Paint Owl's banner. That said, though, the bigger thing is that this mechanic just shits out loot in ridiculous quantities. Um, get good at this mechanic. I'm not gonna explain how to get good at this mechanic. There are other videos for that, or just playing the game. That's how I did it. I will say that spread nodes are really strong. That's all I'm gonna say. But that mechanic yields you a lot of money, and it means that you can focus on like heavy balls rushing strategies at first. It's a lot like Clockwork Ballet in this regard. Now, alongside that thought, there are other mechanics that work. We're going to start with 7-0s. And I say 7-0s in particular because I do not see the value in going from 7-0 to 7-1 to 7-2 in terms of farming. There's value in progression for going to 7-1 and 7-2, right? There are void chart points that you get from killing the watchers in 7-1s and 7-2s. But what are you actually gaining farming wise when you go to 7-1 and 7-2? Because if you just look over here, I just, 7-1, 7, let's go back here. I go to Glacial Abyss. I get 5% drop quantity, and the boss will drop their loot more often. I get 10% drop quantity, and the boss will drop their loot more often. So unless I'm boss farming, I don't give a fuck. Like 10% drop quantity is irrelevant for what I'm about to talk about because you're not dropping FE anyways, right? Like we've established that FE drops in T7s are not incredibly common because you don't drop bases that need them yet, and therefore you don't need to be dropping FE in ridiculous quantities. What you can do is drop in ridiculous quantities things that people actually want to make use of, and you don't actually need this stinky 10% quant to do so. You can just speed farm 7-0s to do so. Let's talk about the things that actually make a lot of money at that level. One, the strategy that I think most people would resonate with the easiest is Twilight Nightmare. You do get a lot of material from this mechanic, as well as the access to this shallow dream talking that I was talking about earlier that does sell. The secret to this mechanic this season, while Nightmare itself is generally valuable, especially if you target Nether Realm or Fluorescent Memory, fluorescent memory bubbles. The other major thing in there is this node right here. When a dream begins, there are additional sleepwalkers, but the more important thing is this card that it adds that makes it so that the sleepwalkers and the regular monsters in your map can drop shallow dream talking, which is the crafting resource I was talking about. So you could walk into a map with this card active and walk out with several dream talkings of each type. And this is a event you can compass it up for additional normal monsters, etc. And it's worth noting while talking about that card with that you can use. I'm about pulled out of the menu I was looking for. You can use that in tandem with these nodes here. If you have Traveler 7 killed already, but you just can't go to 8-0, for example, getting this node here that removes star shards but allows you to get rarer confusion cards will make it a lot more frequent that you see the special drop a shitload of shallow dream talking card for this strategy, right? That's one way to make money down here. Another personal favorite, especially because it ties really closely to character progression. Black Sail, really, really strong. You can fully invest. You can take the full tree, or you can skip this right side here. Up to you. But this section here is really, really good. This is really good for getting the memory scraps and memory threads. Memory threads are the primary export of this mechanic, as you can see. Just to talk about the thing that really is driving cost, it's this shit right here. They're coming down, but they're still very valuable to you, right? This is still almost 2 FE when you drop one, right? If you're struggling in T7s, you drop this and it lets you buy up some really big critical upgrades for your character. This is a big W. So it's good for that, as well as farming out memory scrap so that you can upgrade your memories because there's a lot of character power attached to your memories, right? Very, very, very important stuff there. Then you can sell off excess materials once you're done with it. And you can sustain 7s through buying from the vendor, so you're not actually really paying any real cost for this, except if you want to use the returning Black Seal Compass, which does add some cost, but it's higher investment. But I wouldn't do that in 7s. I would save that for 8s when you drop more red memories and whatnot up there, right? One more strategy that works extremely efficiently in 7s is actually just running maps to the boss with this node here clicked if you have it for additional star shards drop, and then you in the commodities tab drop more star shards, right? Star shards, chests, classic boss rushing, right? Star shards, chests, winding keys, resonance if you want to. You don't really need it for this strategy. And then just straight to the boss. Maybe some good Eterna action if you can handle it. Just things that let you go straight to the boss, blow it up, get the star shards, get a little bit of extra bonus loot, get the fuck out the map on repeat. Also very effective. Although that strategy is also kind of lame because it doesn't really rely on like cards or anything. It's just there to blast. There's a couple of noteworthy cards that I should point out as well in terms of things that actually really do move the needle in terms of the money you make. Um, the card in particular that I'm thinking about is sometimes this Ember card here, not this one, but this one. Replaces magic monsters with things that have a chance to drop additional sets of embers. This has made me so much money this season, just like dropping tons of embers during this card and then being able to sell them off to quickly like fund an activity. Very, very, very strong card, and there's a version of it at like legendary as whatnot as well. It's not showing here because I think my deck is doing something interesting at the moment, but neither here nor there. There's a lot of value in that. And those are really good, like lower tier strategies. You know, Missville for the same reason as like Eterna, just looking for things that you can speed kill in maps that have static value drops that you could sell is really the trick. Static value drops is the secret. Things that don't scale with map quantity or anything like that, you're just looking to blast. That's why I recommend Black Sail, for example. Okay. I need to put out one more shout out to Chess. These things are insane. And it's particularly because of the amount of like fluorescent memories they drop or the ability to drop items like False God Skin or Wind Breath Dispersion. There are very specific items that are chest exclusive that are really strong and what people will pay good money for. But also just generally the amount of fluorescent memories and money currency that these drop has always been a part of what I like to do in this game. It's a very fun thing to put money into. Okay, that's all of that. Now, I have one more bonus section here, and it's mostly just about gear again, but it's because in the previous section I want to talk about gear. I want to talk about the thing that's actually really pressing and really easy to get your character to do, right? Now I need to talk about like some of the other I want to talk really quickly about the extra stuff. So slates, candles, etc. Because there's a lot of gear axes to focus on. Getting good slates is a large part of your character's damage, but like buying these takes money, and it's why I want to cover actually farming real money first, because this is like, you know, this is an expensive base. This costed a couple FE to get your hands on, or like this base costed me about 10 FE. This one up here costed me some, right? Like these are like bases that actually cost some chunks of FE that you'll need to like farm and make. Therefore, I didn't want to talk about this before, talk about how to make money. It's for after you've made money. But getting good slates with just like the good top mods first is very important. And then filling in the bottom mods after is very important. And you know, you guys know that like slates are very important to like upgrade, eventually getting a real pedigree for your character, and then, you know, potentially even upgrading into like corners and whatnot. Additionally, on the same vein, do not leave this menu empty for too long. Like, I'll allow it while your character is not level 90, but the second your character is level 90, even if you can't afford to get like these really good ones going, just slap on some cube for a little while and put in like a smattering of just stuff that says like generically useful stats. Like, just even without the legendary node here, this is a good, like, this legendary node doesn't even give me that much damage. I use it mostly for the defenses, really, and it gives me crit, spell damage, and like attack and cast speed. Just like slap those in, and don't upgrade to purple if you don't feel the need to, right? Like sometimes you get a good blue stat, and that's fine when you're like low investment slates. You're just trying to get something positive out of there. There's a lot of damage to be stored in there. Next up, candles. Really cheap once you have FE. But like when I say like cheap, I say once you have FE, like this is a, you know, premium skill, +1 jump. It's a T1 skill thing, and I got res with it and damage. This is like 75 FE. And that's not a lot of money for where I'm at, but you need to actually generate money before you can afford to do this. But there are cheap candles that have like non-premium skills. Again, movement speed, resistance, percent damage, cast speed, etc. Like you can maybe find a good mixture of those type of stats, or whatever build you know, maybe your build needs multi-strike chance, maybe a shadow strike damage. You know, stats like that you can get your hands on for, you know, probably under 20 FE a piece. And that's just a lot of base stats to boost your character up. I have a couple of friends who are like actually just speed farming 8-0s with candles that are way shittier than mine. I just bought them because, you know, they make my character feel good. I like my character feeling good. There was one more axis of really strong character development, and that is the hero memories. Just getting your memories to 30 is such a big deal. Just getting these, like, your traits upgraded. For your character in particular, you'll need to know which ones you prioritize. Like if you're a Yuga 1 player, you know that this endless mana node is the most important one. Then me and myself, and then I'm an illusion. Other characters, you'll need to go figure that shit out on your own. I don't know every character. That's not the point of this video. The point is to point out the fact that memories give a lot of potential damage, both in the base that they provide, right? This is cast speed. Then the trait level they provide, as well as the actual affixes on them, like this crit rating, this cast speed, and I would even, like, you know, consider rolling one substat on there. right? And like actually, my next upgrade on this character is going for like at least level 40, so I can and like rolling on the stats, so that I can then eventually take it to 50, right? Like that's my next upgrade. Funnily enough, for this character, that's a thing that we consistently iterate over. It's just very important to remember that you iterate over your character so you can go farm harder content, and then you iterate over your character again with that new money, and back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then once you're in 8 zeros, I didn't want to talk. Once you're comfortably farming 8 zeros and whatnot, I'm not really going to talk about farming strategies. And it's just because the world's your oyster at that point. Pretty much every mechanic is very profitable if you are, farming it fast enough, hard enough, with potentially comboses if you need to. And I don't think that's necessary to cover. I'm mostly talking about how to get out of that rut so that you can actually get into the part where you are just like hard farming. Anyways, if you found this video particularly helpful, uh, you know, we're glad you did. First and foremost, I appreciate the interaction with the video. If you decide to, if you don't, that's cool. Also, if you want to see me live on Twitch, I do stream occasionally. I will be streaming this weekend a good bit. Last weekend on Torchlight, at least on stream before I start to prepare for the POE event that's coming up. Link in the description for that. Both the link to the Twitch and a Discord down there if you really want to connect with me, right? Both of those are in the description. And thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.